Basketball is a difficult sport, with there being different teams on top in different eras. The Chicago Bulls in the mid-90s with the star player Michael Jordan, and currently the Golden State Warriors with their star player Steph Curry. But that's not what you're here for, are you? You want to know about the worst team in NBA history. But hey, before, let's just brush over the player who's had the most losses throughout his career in the NBA. Take a guess who you think it is? I'll give you a hint. He was an 8-time All-Star and 2-time All-NBA team selection. Know who it is? Vince Carter, with 756 losses to be exact. But hey, we should give him a break. This is only because he played in the NBA for 22 consecutive seasons. And that's no small feat when you think of it. Okay, now back to why you're here. If we are talking about the most overall losses of a team to date, that has got to be the Sacramento Kings at a whopping 3,204 losses. But if we're talking about the worst team in a season, it's a whole different story. There are tons, but to name a few, there were the 97-98 Denver Nuggets, 92-93 Dallas Mavericks, but the star of today's show are the 1972-73 Philadelphia 76ers. The 76ers right now aren't too bad, with them being the overall 5th in the Eastern Conference, but things weren't always sunshine and rainbows for them. The 76ers had the worst year in NBA history from 1972-73, holding the most losses in NBA history, at a record 73 losses in one season. For reference, the Golden State Warriors lost a total of 62 games in the past 2 seasons. That's just wild if you ask me. The 76ers finished an NBA record of 59 games behind the Atlantic Division champions Boston Celtics. The 76ers kicked off the season with a 15-game consecutive losing streak and then followed up with an even worse 20-game losing streak that same season. Since that season, it was hard to believe that just 6 short years prior they won it all with 68 wins and only 13 losses, which was a record at the time. But this was bound to happen when they traded NBA legend Wilt Chamberlain for a bunch of players whose names most of you don't even know. They were Jerry Chambers, Archie Clark, or Darrell Imhoff, just so you know. This, however, did happen on Wilt's own request, as Chamberlain indicated that Richmond promised him part ownership of the club. But Richmond died before the deal was completed, leading to the new sole owner to back out of the deal. Following this, the 76ers made a chain of bad decisions which led them to a downward spiral. This earned the team their nickname at the time, the 9-73ers. The only relatively good decision made in the next few years was drafting Dennis Autry, and even he was traded 3 games into his 3rd season. Speaking of Dennis Autry, let's talk about the team's roster. It's not like the team didn't have any good players. Some of them were quite big at the time, like Hal Greer, Freddie Boyd, Fred Carter, Luther Green, and Leroy Ellis, etc. The team just didn't go well together, especially under the coaching of Roy Rubin, who was fired during the All-Star break in January of 1973. Rubin is widely regarded as the worst coach ever in NBA's history because of his 9-73 win-loss record. And a 0-15 start started a watch of just how bad of a coach he was. After 51 games and a 4-47 record, while in the midst of what would become a then-record 20-game losing streak, Rubin was fired in favor of player coach Kevin Loughery on January 23, 1973. The team's performance improved slightly, going 5-26, with a .161 winning percentage compared with Rubin's .078 mark, which is the lowest of all time. Several players on the team believed that Rubin was over his head as an NBA head coach. They claimed he ran sloppy practices and never said anything meaningful during timeouts, halftime, or post-game meetings. Years later, one of the players on that team, Fred Carter, said that letting Rubin coach the Sixers was like letting a teenager run a big corporation. Dave Wall, who was traded to Portland, called Rubin a con man. But we just can't blame it all on the coach now, can we? No doubt he was one of the worst to ever take part in the game, but the team did not do any wonders either. So I think it's only fair to assume that both the team and the coach were just terrible. I'm sorry if I'm sounding like a little bit of a hater, but I'm just telling you how it is. To put it lightly, it just wasn't their year. Alright, so I hope you enjoyed this video, and I'm sorry if this video was longer than expected, but what can I say? there was a little too much to say about the team and their coach. Anyway, a sub to the channel would be phenomenal. Oh, and don't forget to like the video as well. It helps more than you know. Anyway, tell us what surprised you the most in the comments down below. Till then, take care.